So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This session is about AI automation for small business success. My goal from today's session, why does that keep flashing? My goal from today's session is three things. I want you to go away with a really good understanding of the AI options available for your business, no matter your size or your budget. I want you to go away with an actual list of ideas that you could use AI for automate within your business. And thirdly, do you know why that keeps flashing? Practical advice on how you would go about that. So how much would it cost? What kind of tools should you use or could you use? Should you do it yourself? Should you hire someone to help you? So, for any of you that don't know me, my name's Rebecca Wilson. My background is in business operations, and I had been in business operations for about 15 years, had a 10-year career down in London in the kind of corporate world, doing various different things, mostly for B2B companies in data, process, systems, culture, all that kind of good stuff. And for the last 5 years, I've been operating as an independent consultant, fractional COO for startup, scale up businesses. And now, of course, I specialize in automation and everything that AI can do to help you with your workflow. So is it flashing for everybody else or just for me, the screen? No flashes here. Okay, good. Right, that's fine. I'll deal with the flashes. It's just kind of flashing on and off, which is a bit distracting. Okay, so what we're going to go through today. So I'm going to take you through kind of what can AI do, what specialist skills does it have, and then I'm going to deep dive into three really specific workflows that 90% of businesses, so hopefully you will have, and we'll look at the exact tools that I use to build these things and exactly how you could have it built into your business. And as I say, hopefully you'll go away with far too many ideas. So if anyone has anything they specifically want me to answer during this session or specific questions, pop them into the chat. And if I don't answer them during the session, I'll certainly come back to you and answer them afterwards. I'm also recording this, hopefully. So hopefully you'll get a copy of that. And of course, I'll be running it through AI to create a summary. So let's dive straight in. Is it going to let me move the screen forward? No, it's not. Okay, let's try it this way. Can you still see? I think I've worked out why it was flashing. Okie dokes. So here we go. Your AI strategy will put you ahead or make it hard to ever catch up. You're on this call, you're thinking about AI. A lot of people tell me they're worried they've missed the boat. I don't think you've missed the boat yet. But of course, if we're not thinking about it this year, absolute latest next year, our competitors are, so we will miss the boat. So why would you automate? What gains are there to be had? Why would you automate? Why would you start using AI in your workflows? So there's three big hitters that we want to go after. One, speed. So productivity gains. So improving how fast we can get stuff to market, improving how fast we can deliver stuff to our lovely clients. Money, right? Obviously, it saves money in terms of leveraging our resources better, but it can also do the analysis to find ways for us to save money. And the big one, the one that everyone tells me about or tells me is the main reason why they want to do it, is time. They really want to leverage their talent, their team's talent to be doing the creative, the strategic, the high leverage stuff, and then just automate all the other rubbish. So I found this amazing quote from McKinsey: AI can automate work activities that absorb 60 to 70% of employees' time today, which is just astronomical, really. So why now? What's happened? What's changed? Why all of a sudden have we all got access to this? So the headline answer is you don't need a developer anymore. There was a day when if you wanted to do any kind of automation, you got to hire a developer. Developers are expensive. And so for a lot of businesses, they were just cost prohibitive. Now we have all of these lovely no code platforms where more or less anyone, given the time, can get to grips with it. So the barrier to entry has, fallen from that perspective. And who hasn't noticed the evolution of AI? AI can do things, some things you probably could have created a program to do if you had enough time and enough developers, but it can just do it like that for incredibly low cost. So the barrier to entry in terms of skill and the barrier to entry in terms of cost have just evaporated. So we all have access to this stuff now, no matter how big or small our business is. So let's talk a little bit about what actually is AI automation. So you hear a lot of different words bandied about, and it's a new area. So obviously the language is evolving. But so you've probably heard of AI agents, you've probably heard of AI automation, probably don't really know what the difference is, etc. So let me kind of explain broad strokes what those two things are. So AI automation is, we probably all know what automation is, right? Some kind of trigger that the computer can recognize that kicks off a series of events to achieve a task. AI automation is basically that, which includes one or more of those steps is run by an LLM doing one of the specialist skills that AI has, which I'm going to talk about surprisingly in a minute. An AI agent is something completely different. So it is usually kind of an army of agents working together. There's usually some kind of manager agent with a series of sub agents who have specialist skills and specialist tools. And what happens is when you make usually a natural language request, the manager agent works out what does that request mean and delegates it to the relevant sub-agent in the right order, and then the sub-agent works out what tools to use to complete that action. And I'm obviously going to show you an example of that in a little while. So the huge difference is they're proactive. They can think about how to achieve something. They can learn, so they remember all of the requests that you've made of them in the past. And so if you say, find all the emails in my inbox, and it goes, here's your emails, and then you say, okay, can you reply to the one from Bob? It knows what you're talking about because it's learned. It remembers from the last time. It can also learn to improve. So if you say, book me a train to Manchester, obviously it's going to have to ask you where are you, but the next time it would then know where you are to assume that. Oh, just realised I've got a few people waiting to get in. Um, and then the third thing is what they call human in the loop. So the concept of human in the loop is it can ask you clarifying questions. So rather than completing the full action, it can say, did you mean this or did you mean that? And you can also set up a series of quality control gates. So it can't move forward until you give it approval. So, for example, you could, I don't know, please write me an email to someone. It could say, here's the email, are you happy with that, before it actually sends it. So you've got kind of that control. So what actually can AI do? What are its specialist skills? What's it really, really good at? So when I build these agents or automations, these are the 6 buckets of things I'm finding most often I'm building in. This is the kind of skills that AI is really good at that I'm utilizing a lot. So let me kind of walk through what each of them are. So the first is extracting data. So it is exquisite at taking unstructured data and transforming it into structured data. What does that mean? So structured data is data in a format that the computer can understand. So think a table of information. Unstructured data is kind of anything else. So it could be an image, it could be a recorded conversation, and it could then take, so for example, a picture of a receipt. unstructured data. AI could extract the relevant information from that receipt, put it into a table, and process it in whatever way makes sense for your business. Categorize is really good at putting things into different buckets. So if you, what would be an example of this? IT tickets, incoming IT requests, give it to the relevant, somebody else coming in, give it to the relevant person to deal with or prioritize it or whatever the case may be. Transform, it's really good at taking something in one format and putting it into another format. So that could be data, obvious use, but it could also be words. So it could be take this angry email and make it a friendly email. Take this email that I've written and make it appropriate to send to my lawyer, for example. Make decisions. So, as I described in the AI agent, it can work out, understanding the parameters it lives in. Who should I send this to? What's the best way of achieving this task that I've been given? Summarize. I think probably a lot of us have used AI to summarize stuff. So take this URL of a YouTube video, get the transcript, and tell me, summarize the main points, summarize all the emails in my inbox, summarize this white paper, and then analyze. So analyze is kind of two buckets. Analyze as in data analysis, so obviously brilliant at that. But it can also evaluate. So a really classic example of this would be customer reviews. So every time a new customer review comes in, evaluate the sentiment. Is it happy or sad, or happy or angry? If it's happy, generate a thank you very much response. If it's angry, maybe send it to me and I'll deal with it. So hopefully you've already got a bit of a list of things that you didn't have on your list before. Let me just see if there's any questions or anything. Nope. So are there any of these things that are new to you, surprise you? You're using all of these already? Any kind of comments? Please put them in the chat. And then let's deep dive into the juicy bit, right? The real examples. Let's look at some of this stuff in action. So first workflow we're going to look at is something we all have to deal with, I think, unless you're very, very, very lucky. And that is, how long do you spend on your inbox every day? And I think most people's answer to this question is far too long. And if you've got a team, a lot of business owners talk to me who've got teams about being annoyed about how much time they see on timesheets coming up as inbox management. But we need our inboxes, right? That's where we get the important information. That's where the client tells us they want to work with us. That's where, we get stuff that we need, but we don't need to read, like in copies of invoices we want to read, but we don't have time to read, like newsletters, and also a whole bunch of crap that we really don't want to look at. So how could AI help us? Let's have a look. So this is an example of an automation. So this isn't an agent, this is a series of automations. And it's utilizing its skill to categorize. So this is just an example. Obviously, your inbox may be slightly different. So every time a new email comes in, it can work out which category does this fall into and then file it into that folder. So for example, what you could have is you could have an urgent folder and an invoice folder, a newsletter folder, a frequently asked questions folder, a client email folder, a contacts folder, maybe a confirmation folder for when you've booked stuff, maybe a folder for your meeting acceptances, depends on your world. And then AI can then process each of those categories accordingly. So maybe for your urgent folder, we could send you or it could send you a notification every hour to your phone via Slack, for example. Your invoice folder, maybe it could strip out, use that extract data skill that it has and strip out all the data from your invoices, put them in a spreadsheet so your bookkeeper will love you. Maybe you could have a newsletter folder where you could summarize every newsletter that comes in there and create an audio file. Maybe you could have a frequently asked questions folder. Maybe your business is the type of business where you get a lot of incoming requests that the answer you've answered before or the answer's on your website. So you create a knowledge base that the AI can tap into and it can create draft responses. All you then need to do is go in and go, yeah, that response is correct, send, 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 send. Do a similar thing with client emails. It could notify you frequently about any new client emails, and based on how you've responded to them in the past, based on what's happening with that client, it could also draft a response for you to just hit send or amend, however the case may be. I've also put in a little fun one. So, because I use this, you could have a folder where if you attended an event, you took a photo of all of the lovely business cards that you collected at that event, send it to yourself. It could then put that into a folder. AI could strip out all of the data from that business card and add it to your contacts, etc., etc., etc. So let me actually show you some of this stuff in real life. So let's get this, and hopefully, what do I need? I need bake.com. So can you, in the chat, just tell me if you can now see a slightly different screen? I'm hoping you can see. Yes, brilliant. So this is the tool I personally use for creating automations. It's called make.com. 99% of you will have heard of Zapier. It's Zapier on steroids because it has a lot more functionality and a lot more different things you can do. The cost of this tool, as you can see, I'm paying $108 a year for this, which is about $9 a month for my needs. And I obviously do a lot of testing. That's more than enough. So for all of you on the call, that would be enough too. And you can actually have a free account where you can run, or you can have switched on two scenarios at a time if you want to kind of play with it or just, have one thing. They organize each of their automations in what they call a scenario. Excuse me, a scenario, which is obviously a trigger and a series of actions. As you can see, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So let me show you that example of a really simple one, which is the fun one that takes pictures of a business card and puts them into your contacts folder. So super duper simple how this is set up. This module, and these are all just kind of drag and drop modules that you can add on. I've got a module here, watching my email for anything that falls into that folder, which obviously has been put there by an AI. I've then got what's called an iterator, which essentially does what this picture says. So it takes one thing and creates it into many things. So in this case, it's looking at all of the attachments and splitting them into single attachments. It's then running that through a very simple prompt I've set up within OpenAI. So in this case, it's saying something along the lines of, please strip out the name, telephone number, email address, blah, blah, blah. And then in my case, it's passing it to Microsoft to put into my contacts folder. Contacts database, obviously it would do it to a spreadsheet, to Google, to whatever you use. So that's an example of a pretty simple AI automation. You can also get crazy complex. So let me show you the one that deals with my invoices. And don't worry, I'm not going to take you through every single module here. But again, you can see how it can handle pretty complex requests. So in this case, again, it's watching a folder. A little picture of an envelope is my email for any invoices that comes through. And basically what this is doing is stripping out the invoice, taking out all of the line items and adding it to a spreadsheet and kind of PDFing it. And a bit more bells and whistles, but essentially that's what it does. And then this is what I end up with. So this is a demo version, but it is real invoices I've run through. So for example, looking at this one, it's pulled out this GoDaddy invoice, and then it's ripped out all of these line items. It's got the value, the VAT, and then here's a hyperlink to the original. So obviously, if I sent that to my bookkeeper, I actually do my own bookkeeping, so automate it. But you could send that to your bookkeeper and they would absolutely love you. And then the third one I talked about within your inbox is your newsletters. So you could have your newsletters running through an automation that summarize them. So here's an example. Here's a nice little short summary. I could read that and go, no, I don't want to read this. Or I could read that and go, yes, please, I want a bit more of an in-depth summary. And I can get the full email back again. I could even get an audio file. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but we'll see. Newsletter. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's talking to me. So a whole bunch of different options, and all of this stuff can happen automatically. So that would be an example of how you could handle your inbox, and hopefully you're now thinking you could have this entire setup, or you could just have one little bit of it set up to help improve your productivity. The next question is, how long do you spend on personal admin? So we all need to do personal admin. We all need to manage our inbox. We need to manage our calendar. We've got to stay on top of our to-do list. We've got to keep those ideas that we've got somewhere. And most of it means tons of data entry, tons of typing stuff into boxes so that we can retrieve those boxes at a later date, which is irritating. So how could AI help you here? So this is a classic example of where an AI agent is exquisite. So as I talked about before, the typical setup of an AI agent is some kind of manager that then delegates to sub-agents. So this is a picture of my personal assistant. So as you can see there, I've got a manager, I've got an inbox agent, a calendar agent, a Notion agent. I run all of my to-do lists, my notes, my tasks, everything through Notion. And then he or she has even got some sub-agents and an email responder agent, which admittedly I don't actually really use, but it exists. And then in the green there, I've got the tools that they have access to. So the manager, when I send in a request via Slack, can send me back a message via Slack. The inbox agent can search for emails, they can send emails, they can draft emails, they can find email addresses so they know who they're supposed to send the email to. And all of those tools are set up in make.com. The AI agent itself is set up in an AI agent builder. My personal preference is one called relevance.ai. It costs me $19 a month, and that is more than enough for all of this. You could obviously set up lots and lots and lots of agents still for that same price. You'd eventually run out of credits, but you can buy more credits for quite a low price. So let's have a look at kind of what this would look like in real life. Screen back. So here is, I thought better of doing a live demo. So I asked it some questions yesterday to show you kind of what it does. So here you can see I've said to it, what's on my calendar for tomorrow? And what it's then done is the manager agent said, nah, that's a calendar question, and has delegated it to the calendar agent. The calendar agent has then used the tool get events from my calendar, found them, and then written them back and sent it back to the manager, and then the manager sent this back to me. And that's all happened in 30-ish seconds. I've then said to it, please summarize all the unread emails in my inbox. And so it's done that. It's delegated that obviously to the inbox manager. I've then said to it, what tasks are due for today? So it's asked the Notion manager, who's then delegated it to the task manager and come up with this is what I was up to yesterday. And then then I've said, okay, great, can you mark these 2 tasks as complete? And it's come back and said, I've done that. So you could imagine if in your world you needed a travel agent that could book flights for you, book trains for you, you could just ask it in here, book restaurants for you. You could have something set up for your content ideas where you could just say into your phone your content idea and it puts it in your list. You could ask it to do research for you, again, completely depending on your world. And the beauty of these AI agents is you can have one thing or you can have 50 things because they're all separate skills. You can just go on adding and adding and adding. And in theory, you could also share these with your team, right? Maybe not your personal assistant, because that would be your inbox, but other tools you could have. You could share the Slack channel with other people. So that's the AI agent. And then the third workflow that I want us to look at is going to have a different answer, but how long do you spend on business development? So the answer is probably not long enough. So unless we are blessed with thousands of um, incoming leads or referrals, we all need to go out looking for business, unfortunately. And a lot of that is fun speaking to clients, it's fun, or prospects, but it's not so fun searching for them in the first place. So, what can AI do to help you here? Well, the answer is a lot. So, I've come up with a few ideas. There's obviously thousands of different things. These could be agents, these could be automations, depending on your setup. And I've got a couple of demos to show you. So we could enrich your lead data. You could have a list of companies and we could scrape the internet for how many employees do they have, where are they headquartered, what industry are they in, who's the main contact, what's their email address, and I'll show you that one in a second. We could research leads. So we could scrape LinkedIn, we could scrape their YouTube channel, we could scrape reviews about that company, we could scrape their blog posts, any news about them, and create reports that suggested things that you could talk to that client about, for example. We could qualify leads. So if you're lucky enough to get leads coming in inbound on your website, rather than just letting them set up a call and they might not be the right fit for you, you could qualify them based on, I don't know, maybe you only work with certain industry, maybe you only work with scale up businesses, not startup businesses, maybe you only work with companies over a certain revenue size. And you could qualify them and send the ones that qualify one way and the ones that unqualify somewhere else. We could find leads in the first place. So we could do Google searches to find leads. We could do scrape all the comments on my LinkedIn posts for people that seem to be interested. We could look at, if you're a recruitment agent, we could look at what we could scrape Indeed for people looking for admin jobs or something, and get you that data and enhance it and run it through all the other things I've just talked about. You could stay relevant, right? So when you do get on that call, you could know what's happening in the industry. You could have an idea of what's happening in the industry to proactively reach out to people. You could be following the companies in your prospect pool. So if someone wins an award, you can congratulate them instantly without having to do all of that Googling yourself. You could create icebreakers. So you could research that actual individual, look at what they post on LinkedIn, look at their comments on Twitter, look at their actual LinkedIn profile, maybe if anything happens to them in the news, and then get AI to suggest topics that you could approach them with. And of course, the list goes on and on and on and on. So let me show you those two demos that I just talked about. Let's get this screen back. So this, for example, is the lead enricher, I think I called it on the other screen. So this is an AI automation. I have a make.com automation behind this spreadsheet. So what I've done is I've Googled creative agencies near me. I've copied and pasted that entire Google search result. And then I have chucked it into ChatGPT and I've said, please, can you create a list of companies with their websites and put it in a table? And then I've copied and pasted the table into here. Obviously, that whole process I just described, you could automate as well, which is one of the ways you could find leads. So it's then given me a list of names. I've actually just cut it down to 25, but a list of names, a list of websites. I can then run the AI, which obviously in Blue Peter style is one I did earlier. And it will give me all of this data. And it is pretty instant with this one. So I've got the LinkedIn page, I've got the address, I've got the industry, how many employees, I've got when it was founded, what it specializes in, and where it's been able to find it, and it's not always able to find it, who's the main contact, what's the name, the title, their email address, their telephone number, etc. So you can imagine if this was a massive list, I could then say, well, I don't work with companies with less than 10 employees. I don't work with companies with more than 100 employees. I don't work with companies in software development. I don't work with companies who are not based in the UK. And so you could filter this list without doing literally zero effort. Whereas in the past, you'd have to, have a horrible day drudging through stuff or pay someone to do it for you. So that is the lead enricher. The research one is once again an AI agent. So I'm running that through relevance. And again, I have it here on my Slack. So you can imagine a world where you have a whole army of workers working for you from Slack. And again, I ran it yesterday, just in case. And you can see I ran it at 12:47 and it gave me the answer 5 minutes later. But I'm getting a hell of a lot of, let's just open these reports back um, pretty instantly. So let me kind of show you some of these. And again, we could have all of these put into one thing if we wanted to. So I have a news report here. So the company I've picked doesn't have a huge amount of news, but there's a couple of bits of news. I have a company overview. So this is telling me what the company does. You'd probably know that by this stage, but maybe not. I have, this is scraping Trustpilot. So it's looking for reviews that this company has received, and it's giving me the positive reviews and negative reviews. This one actually didn't have any negative reviews, but such is life. And then it's telling me what kind of stuff I could talk to them about based on those reviews. Maybe they're brilliant at something, maybe they're rubbish at something. And of course, for your specific business, if you specialize in something or other, we could link it to, or you could link it to what makes sense for you, sort of thing. So I don't know if you're a designer, you could be visually scraping their website and suggesting improvements that you could then talk to them about that. If you're in recruitment and they're getting bad reviews for their customer service, you could talk to them about that kind of thing. We're also scraping their blog. So here it's giving kind of what do they generally talk about on their blog? What stuff could we talk to them about? They've won an award recently, so we can discuss that with them. It's even telling me here what they're not talking about. So in this case, they're not talking about sustainability. So could we talk to them about that, for example? And then it's all a bunch of examples. And also we're scraping, which one is it? This one. Their LinkedIn. So we can scrape their LinkedIn, their YouTube, their Twitter, their Facebook, whatever. So here it's saying this is what they kind of post about. This is their kind of average engagement metrics. They're posting 2 to 3 times a week. Here's the hashtags they like. Here's their best posts. And here's a link to that post. And then here's stuff that we could potentially engage with them about. So you can imagine if this was kind of tailored to your specific world, it could dramatically reduce how much time you're having to do all of this stuff. And like I say, you could even take all of these reports and summarize them into one single report. So let's get rid of that. So a hell of a lot of stuff. I'm hoping you already have like quite a big list of things that you could automate. There's a couple of areas I've not touched on yet. So I've drawn a process map of every single business. So we're all, let me just make sure I can see the comments in case there's any. So this is supposed to be a process map of every single business. So we're all trying to find clients, win clients, serve clients, and charge clients. We've all got some kind of admin. We've all got some kind of knowledge we need to stay on top of, whether it's skills, industry, companies. And even if we're working on our own, we're having to communicate with other people. So I've talked about quite a lot of stuff we can look at. I haven't talked about content. You can obviously imagine a lot of the stuff within the sales, the business development stuff you could repurpose for content. So find me things to talk about, listen to social media for trends that I should be posting about. What else could it do? You could be scraping the comments of your LinkedIn posts for new ideas. You could be recording your discovery calls with clients chucking those into AI, and it could give you a list of things you should write content on because it's questions you get quite a lot. You could be repurposing stuff, so you could be putting your articles that you've written on your website, and it could rewrite it into shorter posts for you based on how you speak, based on other posts that you've done. Winning clients, so research is obviously a thing. Creating proposals would be another thing it'd be brilliant at. Serving clients, it could help you with the onboarding. It could help you with um, I mean, it really depends on what your actual business is, but it could help you with all the communication with the client, all the follow up with the client, charging, all the world of invoices, admin we've kind of talked about, know how we've kind of talked about, and teamwork. A really good example here is recording your team meetings, grabbing all the actions and putting those into Trello or Asana or however you organize your business. So I'm hoping that I'm actually got you to a place where you're like, oh, now I've got far too many ideas to be running through. So how can we make it happen for you? How can we actually get you started with this stuff? So I am offering anyone who's on this webinar, no matter how small or how big your company is, a conversation for free, no obligation, no sales pitch. And that is to work out what stuff would make sense for your business. Should you learn to do it yourself? Should you hire someone? Should you hire an agency? What are the kind of costs you'd be looking at for those different levels? Do you need bespoke stuff? Can you buy kind of more kind of off the shelf templated stuff? And any other questions that you might have in that kind of region. So if you do want to take advantage of that, you just need to go to timewisely.co.uk/free call, and it should redirect you to a Zoom link thingy, so you can book into my calendar. There obviously also is a sales page. I'm also offering a massive discount on the core versions of the 3 workflows that I just demonstrated to you. So let me just quickly tell you what's included in those. So the admin assistant, so that was the AI agent that I showed you running through Slack. So included in the core package would be your inbox and your calendar. So we'd hook those up and you'd be able to send emails, forward emails, draft emails, reply to emails, get emails, tell me all the unread emails, tell me all the emails in such and such a folder. And also the calendar. So what's on my schedule for tomorrow? Can you set up a meeting? Can you invite so and so? Can you block out time next Tuesday for such and such a thing? And then obviously we can discuss if you want anything else added on to that. The inbox manager. So this core package includes setting up the categories for you, and so your inbox can be filed, and it includes sending a summary of each of those folders to you once an hour, once a week, whatever makes sense to each category. And I'm also including the summarizer tool, where either we can just summarize everything that comes into your newsletters, or you can have a spreadsheet that gives you short summaries of all of those newsletters, and you can choose give me a full summary and or give me an audio summary that I can listen to in the car. And finally, the business development booster. I'm offering 3 tools within that core package. So enrich the lead data, which was that spreadsheet that I showed you. The research, the company document thing, which was all those documents that I showed you. And obviously that'd also be useful for competitors, right? So you could research what your competitors are up to, not just what your prospects are up to. And finally, the qualify leads tool, which would take your incoming leads and qualify them based on whatever matters to you and your business. And again, there's a whole host of other tools that we could talk about if that's the route you want to take. You can find out more about all of these and everything else that I sort of talked about on my website, timewisely.co.uk/services. And the way to access all of this stuff is to speak to me. So, like I say, you can, if you go to timewisely.co.uk/free call, we can have a chat on Zoom and we can work out if anything makes sense for you, what makes sense for you, what costs you're looking at, what tools you could look at. Should you do it yourself? Should you hire someone to do it? Should you hire someone like me, a freelancer, or should you hire a big, massive agency to do it for you? So let me just have a wee look in the chat. Is there anything that people are? Doesn't look like there's any massive questions. Does anybody have any questions? Lots to think about, yeah. But do, like I say, those calls are for everybody. However big or small you are, um, let's chat. Genuinely want to help you. My kind of mission with my business is I see a lot of the big boys, a lot of the big AI agencies kind of making this stuff a bit untouchable. Um, little businesses should have access to. You mentioned scraping LinkedIn. Do they allow that? Yes. So it's not, good question, good ethical question. So it's not scraping. So what you're not allowed to do on LinkedIn is you're not allowed to automate stuff associated with your account. So we are not touching your account in any way. We're basically looking up a URL of a web page. So, linkedin.com/. Rebecca Wilson, however that URL is, and then scraping the HTML from that page. So we're not interacting with LinkedIn in any way. We're just purely pulling the information from it. And likewise, when we're scraping the news, when we're scraping anything else, all we're doing is going to that page and pulling off the HTML, which is obviously like the code in the background of how a web page appears. So yeah, it wouldn't. And in theory, if you had this, it doesn't even have your link. It doesn't even know who you are. So you'd have no risk of being banned. Um, is the real benefit in handling high volumes of information or digging deep into detailed data? Excellent question. And my answer is both. So the way to think about AI or to think about all of this stuff is how can it help me do what I want to do better? So sometimes that means automating the exact thing that you do. So when I book a meeting with someone, I go here, I click here, I set up meeting, so we can just get AI to replace that one for one. Sometimes it's doing things that you wouldn't possibly dream of because it would just be mental how much time it takes you to do it. So in the case of handling high volumes of information, for me in my business, I couldn't look up data of like 100 potential clients, right? That would take me so long. But I can do it if I can get AI to do it, and then I can kind of flip the game on targeting clients, right? Because I can make it extremely relevant to them, and only not do this mass spamming thing, but use mass information to actually be incredibly personal with each individual, and so their experience is actually a lot nicer. And then, of course, detailed data. What it's really great at is going and finding vast quantities of information, and if you prompt it correctly, then interpreting what that means for you. So there's a whole bunch of other use cases. I was talking to somebody yesterday who has a huge library of content in their specific field, and they basically sell access to this library of content. And I was saying, well, what you could do is, given that huge library, rather than asking people to go in and access that information, you could more proactively think about how they could use it and feed it to them bit by bit, which also completely changes the experience of that information. So rather than I must log in and then watch things, I could just be, you've told me you're thinking about this or you want to improve this skill. Here's some content that would help you with that. which is kind of, vast quantities of information. Looking for a current awareness bulletin for people in my sector. Yeah, they're brilliant. So what I would suggest, in case people can't see that, someone's asked, looking for a current awareness bulletin for people in my sector. Think AI is the way to go for this. So yes, what I would potentially suggest is you set up, and again, book one of the calls and we'll talk about it, RSS feeds. So you can set up RSS feeds from, this news source, that news source, this website, that blog, this YouTube channel. And you can then have all of that coming in as people publish new things into make.com. And then we can have AI sifting through that, working out the relevant stuff, writing a bulletin for you, then have another AI putting it into your colors and pretty branding, and then you can check if you're happy with it, and then you can send it out to um, people in your sector. Public profiles of public information. Yes, exactly. Um, some people saying, Arthur, what are your thoughts on AI generated content? So I wondered if someone would ask this. So I completely agree when people say AI can't write content. It absolutely cannot write content when you just say, please may you write a post about AI automation. I've given it no context, no information, no what style I like or anything like that. So in under that heading, it absolutely can't. But one of the things that I'm developing is an AI agent system that can assist you with your content. So there's lots of little stages to doing content, right? There's coming up with ideas, there's looking at the industry, there's capturing your ideas, there's doing research for stats about your ideas, there's writing outlines, there is uh, writing hooks, so people engage with your stuff. There is creating images. There is, proofreading. So whilst I wouldn't probably yet, maybe one day, but I wouldn't probably yet suggest you just hand over your content creation to AI. What you can do is help with some of the bits. So a really obvious thing is capturing your ideas, right? You could build that into the agent that I just demonstrated to you. Scraping news and relevant information, another idea. Scraping YouTube comments for ideas of stuff to talk about. Taking transcripts of your own YouTube long form videos and coming up with ideas. Um, and you could also, it could help you with the writing. So I have it help me with my writing. I say, this is what I want to talk about. Here's my version of the script, make it better. And then I edit it. I use AI to help me with my hooks. So I have a custom GPT that I've set up that um, I put in the script of my video, and it comes up with a whole bunch of different ideas, a bold statement, a question, a controversial statement. And then I usually don't take it verbatim, but it spurs me an idea to use. So there's a whole bunch of different ways it can help you with that world. And as I say, it's one of the processes that I'm looking at because a lot of people ask me about it. I post a lot on LinkedIn, but rarely on my website and other social media. Could this automated easily? Absolutely. So we could do one of two things. You could either have your set up an automation that isn't even AI, just an automation that when you post in one place, it posts every like verbatim everywhere else. Or you could be a bit cleverer and you could repurpose that LinkedIn post into other ideas. Or often you do it the other way around, you do a long form and repurpose it for shorter ideas. But you could just verbatim do it, if that made sense to you. I mean, I'm not a fan of let's just litter the content world with lots of rubbish, but high quality stuff, repurposed stuff that works in different platforms, absolutely. We should be doing that. And I think I missed them. What are your thoughts on it? Oh yeah, I think it looks so obvious when something is written by AI. Absolutely. And again, that's if you're um, just asking, uh, if you're giving no context, if you're not telling it, don't use thousands of emojis, then yes, it will just look awful. You need to train it. You need to use more of an agent setup than an automation setup, where it learns your style, your voice, etc., etc. And you absolutely need the human in the loop element as well. Um, I use ChatGPT as a tool for content, but I've had to train it and still need to edit it. Yeah, um, there you go. Good. So that feels like good work me for staying under an hour. So like I say, please do feel free to book in the call. Have a nice chat with you anyway. And if you're watching this on replay, same deal. Any other questions come up, pop them into the chat. I'll probably post a post about this like tomorrow or something. So if you enjoyed it, do feel free to write a comment that says you enjoyed it. That would be brilliant. And otherwise, take care. Speak to you soon.